What if we told you that before Jungkook became the golden maknae of BTS, he almost wasn't? That this global icon, this voice that sells out stadiums and melts the charts, was once being courted, secretly, aggressively, and shockingly, by some of the biggest boy bands in K-pop history. Imagine him in another uniform, under a different label, singing different lyrics with a different destiny. Sounds unreal, right? But it happened. And the truth behind who tried to snatch him away and how far they were willing to go might just leave you stunned. Because we're not talking small-time scouts, we're talking multi-million won offers, life-altering proposals, VIP treatment. Jungkook had the world at his feet and still said no. But why? What made him walk away? Was it loyalty? Was it vision? Or did something darker unfold behind those polished entertainment deals? Hold on to your seats, because today we're counting down the top 10 most famous boy bands that Jungkook rejected to sign with, even when offered insane prices. Each one tried to lock him down, each one failed, and each story reveals something wild, heartbreaking, or downright unbelievable. One member, one decision, one butterfly effect that changed the course of K-pop history. Ready to dive in? Let's start from the bottom and work our way up, because trust me, the higher the rank, the crazier the story gets. So here we go. Number 10. EXO's missed opportunity with Jungkook. Back in 2011, the K-pop industry was a battlefield. SM Entertainment, the giant behind legendary names like TVXQ and Super Junior, was crafting its next elite unit, EXO. This group was meant to be otherworldly, literally, with the whole From Exoplanet concept, synchronized choreo, heavenly vocals, and stunning visuals. EXO was being sculpted to dominate Asia. And right before their debut shook the world, SM had their eyes on someone whose aura they couldn't ignore: Jungkook. At just 13 years old, Jungkook had stunned judges with his audition for Superstar K3. Though he didn't win, his raw talent set off a chain reaction of calls from entertainment companies across Korea. One of the most persistent? SM Entertainment, the same label known for its rigorous training, tough standards, and unbeatable global reach. According to insiders, SM didn't just call, they chased. They sent scouts, they invited him for closed-door meetings, they promised a future alongside names like Suho, Baekhyun, Chanyeol, and Kai. At the time, EXO was still a code name within SM, but the goal was clear: build the most formidable lineup the industry had seen in years. And they believed Jungkook could be the finishing touch. Imagine it, Jungkook is part of EXO-K, singing harmonies beside D.O., dancing in sync with Kai, shooting intergalactic concepts in expensive music videos. The sheer power that combination could have had. The visuals alone? Insane. And vocally? EXO was already a powerhouse, but with Jungkook's range, they would have added an entirely new layer of depth. Some even say that SM offered him a senior mentorship from members of TVXQ and Super Junior, an exclusive fast-track route that was unheard of for a rookie, not to mention the rumored six-figure trainee contract, even at his age. But Jungkook said no. And this wasn't just a soft decline, it was a decision that baffled many industry watchers, because SM meant safety, it meant prestige, it meant international distribution, magazine covers, and prepackaged success. Why would any teenager say no to that? In interviews years later, Jungkook hinted that the training style at SM didn't feel right to him. He felt boxed in. He wanted artistry, not a manufactured image. He didn't want to be molded, he wanted to grow. And most of all, he wanted to feel a real connection with the people around him. That connection, he found it somewhere else. While EXO exploded in 2012 with Mama and took over the charts, Jungkook quietly trained under a then smaller company, Big Hit Entertainment. At the time, Big Hit was barely surviving financially. But for Jungkook, it wasn't about the brand, it was about the belief. He chose to debut not in a company that promised him the moon, but one that believed in his voice, his evolution, and his identity. And the irony, years later it was Jungkook's group, BTS, that would stand toe-to-toe with EXO on every award stage, every international tour, and every global headline. Some fans still fantasize, what if Jungkook had joined EXO? Would the vocal line be unstoppable? Would BTS still have existed? Would EXO have had a different fate? One thing's for sure, SM knew what they saw in him, but Jungkook, he knew what he didn't see in them. And that decision, bold and risky, marked the start of a legacy he'd carve out on his own terms. He wasn't meant to be from Exoplanet. He was meant to build a world of his own. Number 9. GOT7 tried everything, but Jungkook walked away. Before GOT7 became the international sensation under JYP Entertainment, before their synchronized martial arts tricks and global fanbase took off, there was a quiet moment hidden from the cameras when JYP's talent scouts thought they had secured a secret weapon: Jungkook. That's right, the boy who would later redefine what it meant to be an all-rounder in K-pop was once on the edge of becoming the 8th member, or rather, the core of GOT7. And if things had gone differently, K-pop history would have been rewritten. Let's rewind. It's 2011. Jungkook is only 13, fresh off his Superstar K3 audition, and JYP moves fast. Not just a call, he's brought in. Trainee sessions, one-on-one meetings, a direct invitation to join their rigorous training system. And here's the twist. At that time, GOT7 hadn't debuted yet, but the blueprint was forming. JYP wanted something new, something global, something energetic, and Jungkook fit every category. With his fluid dance style, visual appeal, and humble vibe, they saw him as a younger, rawer version of Rain, one of JYP's most successful protégés. JYP didn't just offer training, they offered grooming. Rumors say Park Jin-young himself promised personal mentoring for Jungkook. That's a big deal. He was told he'd debut fast, that he'd be put in a team with boys who could dance, rap, speak English, and jump off the walls, literally. JB, Mark, Jackson, Bam Bam, Yoongyum, Jin Young, and Youngjae were rising in the trainee ranks, each with a specific color, and Jungkook was supposed to be the glue. His voice was the missing harmony. His visuals would have balanced the group, and his soft-spoken persona would have been the perfect contrast to Jackson's bold energy and Bam Bam's charisma. The deal? Reportedly massive, not just in trainee perks, but in guarantees, fast debut, global schedules, even early modeling gigs. According to insider sources, Jungkook was told he'd be flown to LA for choreography boot camps, and he'd likely become the group's center within months. It was JYP's way of saying, "We see you, and we're ready to build around you." But Jungkook didn't sign. Why? He felt the rhythm didn't match his own. It wasn't personal. He respected the label, the legacy, and even looked up to several JYP artists. But the style, the vision, the intense spotlight, it didn't feel like home. Jungkook later said in documentaries that he visited several agencies and felt something very specific at Big Hit Entertainment: sincerity. A sense that he wouldn't be pushed to be someone else, that he could still dance, still sing, still grow, but as himself. Meanwhile, GOT7 debuted in 2014 and smashed expectations. Their track Girls, Girls, Girls introduced a unique blend of martial arts tricking and K-pop swagger. They toured the globe, released multilingual albums, and built a dedicated fandom. And yet, what if Jungkook had been there? Would GOT7 have been an even stronger vocal group? Would Jungkook have gone into solo work sooner? Would the group's synergy have shifted? Fans often wonder. Even Jackson once casually mentioned in an interview how he admired Jungkook's talents, hinting at their past intersections. But the most emotional part? Jungkook could have had it easy. Big company, global backing, flashy debuts. But he chose the hard road. And through that, he helped create a group, BTS, that didn't just rise, it redefined the industry. Today, as GOT7 members explore solo paths and international projects, and Jungkook conquers Billboard charts with solo hits, it's clear, both sides made history. But the universe had a different stage in mind for Jungkook, and he followed it, not for fame, but for truth. Number 8. Monsta X's offer was fierce, but Jungkook was unshakable. In the early 2010s, Starship Entertainment had a vision. to create a bold, intense, no-nonsense boy group that would rival the rising storm of EXO and the still unknown threat of BTS. They wanted charisma, danger, grit. They wanted visuals with edge and voices that roared instead of whispered. And somewhere in the middle of their silent casting net, they locked eyes on a trainee who didn't just sing, he owned the mic. His name? Jungkook. Still a teenager, still unsure, but already walking like he was made for the stage. Monsta X was still in the conceptual stage, long before their brutal survival show No Mercy aired. But Starship already knew the kind of member they needed, someone who could deliver vocal power, performance intensity, and global appeal. Jungkook checked every box, and unlike some agencies, Starship didn't wait. They made contact, quiet meetings, invitations to pre-trainee showcases, promises of aggressive promotion. Rumor has it, Jungkook was one of the silent candidates, idols considered for Monsta X before the public ever saw a single teaser. In fact, according to some unconfirmed staff whispers, Starship was ready to bypass the survival show process if Jungkook agreed. He wouldn't have to compete, no voting, no elimination, just a straight path to debut, with a high-budget rollout and early fanbase support. That's rare in the K-pop industry, almost unheard of, and that shows just how serious they were. The plan? Monsta X would debut with a hip-hop-forward, aggressive, masculine concept that pushed back against Flower Boy norms. They wanted something edgier, louder, with hard beats and raw vocals. With members like Shonu, Kihyun, Hyungwon, and Ju Honey locked in, the only thing missing was a wild card. Someone who could switch from sultry to soft, from pop chorus to rap segment, from stage charisma to off-cam vulnerability. Jungkook, they believed, could be that wild card. But even as the paperwork and meetings moved forward, something didn't click for Jungkook. He respected the group, liked the music, but emotionally, it didn't feel like his story. Starship's vision for him was laser-cut, the sexy maknae, the fierce performer. But Jungkook was still discovering himself, and he didn't want to be pushed into a mold that didn't reflect where his heart was. He once said in an interview that what drew him to Big Hit wasn't just the training or opportunity, but the feeling that he could fail there and still be accepted. That level of safety, ironically, gave him the courage to take risks. Monsta X debuted in 2015 with Trespass, a hard-hitting, in-your-face anthem that showcased their dance muscle and sharp rap lines. They went on to become one of the most beloved performance groups in K-pop, with a fan base known for its loyalty and passion. Their international recognition soared, especially in the US, where their sound resonated deeply. But fans sometimes pause and wonder, how different would Monsta X have been if Jungkook stood among them? Would the vocal line be more delicate? Would their image have softened slightly? Would the trajectory be the same? One thing's certain, Starship saw his potential. They moved fast, offered security, power, visibility. But Jungkook wasn't chasing ease, he was chasing meaning. And in that choice, he rejected not just a contract, but a version of himself that wasn't true. He didn't need to trespass into someone else's world. He was on his way to building one of his own. Number 7. ATEEZ wanted him bad, but Jungkook chose silence over spotlight. When you think of ATEEZ, you think of energy. You think of fire on stage, precision in choreography, raw intensity in vocals, and a kind of fearless confidence that makes their live performances unforgettable. But what most fans don't know is that in the shadows of their pre-debut days, long before they became the performance kings of the fourth generation, there was one name being whispered in practice rooms. One name that could have changed the group's trajectory forever. Jungkook. Yes, John Jungkook. And no, this isn't some fantasy scenario, it almost happened. Let's set the scene. Back in 2013, KQ Entertainment was small, hungry, determined. They wanted to build something real, an idol group that wasn't manufactured but earned. They weren't interested in just visuals or popularity. They wanted hunger, grit, real artistry. That's when they first caught wind of a young teenager whose name was beginning to echo quietly across the industry. A boy who had just rejected SM, who had just walked away from JYP, who didn't want to be put in a box. A boy who could sing like a seasoned pro, dance with soul, and radiate this raw, unfiltered vulnerability. KQ Entertainment had barely begun forming the vision for what would later become ATEEZ, but when they learned about Jungkook's availability, they made their move. They weren't offering mansions or massive trainee perks. What they offered was something different: creative freedom, a chance to grow not just as an idol, but as a performer. They presented him with a concept that was bold even in its infancy, a group of rebellious underdogs who would conquer the stage with power and passion, not privilege. Jungkook was invited to private showcases, small group vocal sessions, and even given a glimpse of KQ's future. The concept of ATEEZ wasn't fully named yet, but the essence was there. Performance-heavy, story-driven, anti-mainstream, the kind of group that doesn't play it safe. According to early staff sources, KQ believed Jungkook could be their vocal anchor, the stable emotional center of a group that would fly across stages like fire. With his vocal warmth and effortless charisma, he would have added a grounded emotional layer to the group's hurricane-like energy. And let's not forget, this was a time when KQ was unknown. Joining them would have meant betting on nothing but potential. No senior groups, no huge budgets, just passion. And that was precisely what appealed to Jungkook. He respected their hunger. He felt something real in the way they moved. In fact, insiders say he trained with a few future ATEEZ members in vocal camps and choreography practices, especially with Songhwa and Jongho, long before the group debuted. There was chemistry, there was mutual admiration. But then, he disappeared. Not dramatically, quietly, respectfully. He told KQ he was grateful, that he felt seen, but that he had to follow his heart. That heart? It led him to a much smaller, quieter label, a place with only one known act, a guy named Rap Monster. A place where he'd have to work harder, wait longer, but somehow feel freer. Big hit. ATEEZ went on to debut in 2018, years later, with Pirate King, blasting onto the scene like a cannonball. Their sound was unapologetic, their image bold and wild. They became global festival favorites, selling out shows worldwide. Fans adored them, critics respected them. But sometimes in interviews, ATEEZ members casually drop hints about talented guys they once trained with. And when fans dig deeper, one name always surfaces. Jungkook could have been their emotional balance, their quiet storm in a sea of explosive energy. Instead, he watched from afar, cheering them on, but never stepping in. Not because he didn't believe in them, but because he was already writing a story that demanded everything from him. He wasn't meant to be part of the crew. He was meant to build his own ship and sail it across oceans no one else dared to cross.
Number 6. ENHYPEN practically worshipped him, but Jungkook let them go alone. This one's gonna sting for some fans, because when it comes to ENHYPEN, the ties to Jungkook weren't just casual, they were emotional, spiritual, and deeply personal. This wasn't just another company offering Jungkook a contract. This was family. This was Big Hit, his own label, wanting to recreate magic by placing him at the center of their next-generation supergroup. And yet, even then, even with the power of legacy, Jungkook stepped back. Let's rewind to 2020. The K-pop world was still catching its breath from BTS's global domination. Dynamite had just exploded onto the charts. BTS had taken the US, Europe, and Asia by storm. And behind the scenes, HYBE, formerly Big Hit Entertainment, was preparing to launch a new project, Island. It was a survival show, but not just any show. This was an idol-making machine engineered with Big Hit's philosophy, authenticity, artistry, and global impact. The plan? Create a group that could stand beside BTS, not behind them. And who better to anchor that new group than someone who had walked the path before? Someone who was the literal embodiment of the trainee to legend story. That someone was Jungkook. He was approached, not once, multiple times. HYBE envisioned ENHYPEN as a bridge between BTS and the next generation. There were murmurs inside the company that if Jungkook were to be part of the group, not necessarily as a permanent member, but even as a co-leader, mentor, or initial face, it would instantly give ENHYPEN the wings they needed to take off. One internal pitch even imagined him debuting again, Jungkook 2.0, reintroducing himself in a dual role that broke the entire mold of the K-pop system. They wanted a symbol of continuity, a legend reborn in a new context. And it wasn't just the company. ENHYPEN members themselves were, and are, massive fans. Jungkook is their blueprint. He's the one they grew up watching. Some of them, like Jungwon and Heesung, reportedly teared up during closed-door mentorship sessions when Jungkook visited the Island facility. He was a living dream to them. Even now, ENHYPEN has openly spoken about how deeply they respect him, how they study his performances, how they measure their own growth using his career. So why didn't Jungkook join? Because legends don't repeat themselves. Jungkook understood something the industry often forgets. Greatness isn't about clinging to every stage that asks for you. It's about knowing when to walk away, when not to steal the spotlight. He saw ENHYPEN's raw hunger, their desperation to prove themselves, and instead of inserting himself into that spotlight, he became their silent guardian. He showed up as a mentor, not a member, and most of all, he gave them room to become themselves. It would have been easy. No contracts, no lawyers, just a nod to the HYBE execs, and Jungkook could have been in ENHYPEN's debut MV, on their debut stage, featured in their debut album. But he refused. He didn't want his shadow to drown out their light. He chose respect over attention, silence over spectacle. And look at ENHYPEN now. From given to taken to drunk dazed, they've carved out a distinct identity. Fierce, emotional, experimental. They've stood on world stages, walked fashion runways, topped charts, all without Jungkook needing to lead them. That's the kind of power only a true mentor has, the ability to step back and let others rise. So no, Jungkook never signed a contract with ENHYPEN, but his fingerprints are all over their story. Not as a member, but as a mirror, a standard, a silent star they've been chasing since day one. Sometimes the most powerful yes is knowing when to say no.
Number 5. TXT rolled out the red carpet, but Jungkook wasn't meant to follow. You might think this one sounds strange. After all, TXT didn't debut until 2019, long after Jungkook had already become the heart of BTS, performing at stadiums, breaking records, and setting global trends. So how could he possibly be a candidate for TXT? But here's where the story gets emotional and a little surreal, because even when the world thought Jungkook had already found his place, Big Hit still dreamed of putting him in one more group. A group that was supposed to carry on a legacy by standing beside the very one who created it. In the earliest whispers of TXT, Tomorrow X Together, Big Hit envisioned something bold, a group that wasn't just about edgy concepts or flashy debut singles, but about chemistry, connection, and storytelling. A brotherhood. A group that could evolve in real time, each member growing up with the fans, much like BTS had. And somewhere deep in the early development stages, there were internal talks. What if Jungkook debuted again? What if, just maybe, the Golden Maknae launched a second life to symbolically link two generations of Big Hit's soul? Not as a soloist, not as a guest, but as a founding figure. Insiders say this idea didn't come out of nowhere. Jungkook's bond with the TXT members, especially Yeonjun and Byeondu, was already growing through shared dance sessions, studio visits, and silent mentoring. It was subtle, but deep. There were times when Jungkook would train with them, not as a senior watching from afar, but as someone who understood the burden of debuting under pressure. A lot of fans don't realize how often Jungkook quietly sat in on vocal drills with Subin, or watched Huninkai rehearse choreography and gave notes, not as a superstar, but as an older brother who knew what it meant to stand on that line between fear and fame. Big Hit had considered this once-in-a-lifetime idea, debut TXT with a twist, not as 5 rookies, but as 6 stars, 5 rising suns, and 1 living legend.
The shock value alone would have been seismic. Media would have exploded. Fans would have collapsed. Jungkook re-debuts in TXT? Headlines would have gone global within minutes. It would have been the most talked about move in K-pop history. But Jungkook shut it down. Not out of pride, out of principle. He didn't want TXT to live in his shadow. He wanted them to stand tall without the weight of his fame distorting their identity, because he remembered how hard it was to build BTS from the ground up, to own their sound, their style, their message. And if he, the most famous Gen 3 idol, joined TXT, could they truly own anything at all? He once told a staff member during a late-night session, "They don't need me in the photo. They're already the story." That sentence became a kind of quiet mantra among TXT trainees, and it changed everything. From that point on, TXT trained harder, not to match Jungkook, but to honor the fact that he chose not to be the headline. Still, Jungkook's presence remains woven into TXT's DNA. From the way Yeonjun handles stage pressure, to how Taehyun controls his tone, to how Subin leads with gentle confidence, it's all echoes of Jungkook's influence. And every once in a while, during award shows or behind-the-scenes footage, you'll catch a TXT member giving Jungkook a look that's filled with more than respect. It's gratitude, pure and quiet. So no, Jungkook never signed on to be in TXT, but make no mistake, he helped build them, not as a member, but as a silent cornerstone. And maybe that's even more powerful than a debut stage. Sometimes leadership isn't about standing in front, it's about stepping aside and letting others rise without your shadow. Number 4. Stray Kids knocked loudly, but Jungkook never opened that door. This is where things get really interesting, because while most people assume Jungkook's career path was a straight line from superstar K3 to BTS, they don't realize how many curveballs were thrown his way, including one that came from one of the most intense and experimental boy groups in K-pop today, Stray Kids. That's right, JYP Entertainment didn't just try to get Jungkook for GOT7. They came back again, years later, this time with a whole different strategy and a whole different team. By the time Stray Kids was being formed, JYP had changed its philosophy. The company wanted a group that wasn't polished to perfection, but real, gritty, and self-produced. A group that would write their own lyrics, compose their own beats, choreograph their own stages. They didn't want another idol group, they wanted creators. So when the idea for a pre-debut survival show called Stray Kids started being floated around internally in 2016, the team sat down and asked, who would shock the industry if they joined? Who's got the raw charisma, the underdog attitude, and the ability to handle emotional chaos while still commanding a stage? The name that came up? Jungkook. This wasn't some formal offer plastered on press releases. This was underground, strategic. JYP insiders, still aware of Jungkook's early hesitation with their system, believed this new direction might appeal to him now. Because this wasn't a company-driven vision anymore. This was letting the members build themselves. This was Hyunjin, Felix, Han, Changbin, and Bang Chan grinding through sleepless nights to write lyrics that bled. This was sweat, tears, control, a rebellion in disguise. Jungkook was reportedly invited, off the record, to observe early training sessions. He was shown some of the group's raw demo tracks. He was offered a behind-the-scenes look at the early storyboarding of what would become the Stray Kids survival show. No pressure, just an invitation to imagine himself within this storm. JYP even floated the idea of not including him in the elimination system. He could be the final member chosen by the company, the ace, the one who didn't have to fight for his spot because his talent was already undeniable. And here's the thing, Jungkook was intrigued. At this point, BTS was already taking off, but Jungkook had always craved evolution. The idea of starting something again, with new faces, new energies, new struggles, it called to him. But only for a moment, because then he met Bang Chan and Hyunjin and Han. He saw their fire, not in the polished, prepped way of a PR campaign, but in the aching, desperate way of artists with something to prove. He once told a friend that it reminded him of BTS's pre-debut days, the basement practices, the cracked mirrors, the silence when no one clapped for us yet. And he knew if he joined Stray Kids, he'd drown them. Not because he wanted to, but because his name was already too big. The group's message, "You make Stray Kids stay," was about finding your path, not following someone else's. So, Jungkook respectfully declined. Again. Stray Kids debuted in 2018 with District 9, blasting into the scene with noise, rebellion, and emotional grit. They weren't clean-cut, they were real. They wrote their stories with anger and vulnerability, and fans fell in love. Since then, they've topped global charts, sold out arenas, and proved you don't need to fit into a box to be iconic. But every so often, when the topic of influence comes up in interviews, Bang Chan will reference Jungkook, not as someone who led them, but as someone who chose not to lead so they could find their own voices. In the end, Jungkook didn't walk through that door JYP left open, not because it wasn't tempting, but because some doors aren't meant to be walked through. Some are just meant to be looked at, nodded toward, and left behind with respect. Because Jungkook wasn't born to be part of someone else's revolution, he was born to be his own.
Number 3. NCT almost had him, but Jungkook refused to be just a unit. Now this one could have changed everything. SM Entertainment wasn't done chasing Jungkook after he turned down their EXO offer years earlier. Nope, they came back, louder, smarter, and with a brand new master plan. NCT, the Unlimited Idol Universe. This wasn't your typical boy band. It was a sprawling, evolving, rotating system of units that could grow endlessly. NCT 127, NCT U, NCT Dream, Wave V, each with their own concept, sound, and members. It was revolutionary, ambitious, and Jungkook? He was their golden target. Again. In 2015, as SM finalized the concept of NCT, they were looking for elite-level talent that could anchor each unit. Not just someone who could sing, not just someone who could dance, but someone who shined no matter the stage. Internally, they needed names that could push the project from experimental to iconic. And someone in the boardroom said, "What if we brought Jungkook in? Not as a trainee, but as a face, a foundation, an instant game changer." At that time, Jungkook had already debuted with BTS, but SM didn't care. They believed NCT could be big enough to make someone switch. Think about it. SM wasn't asking him to re-audition. They were ready to make a private acquisition-like move, transfer him, build a new unit around him, even offer him creative roles in concept design. According to insiders, one of the wildest offers was to position Jungkook as a dual leader with Taeyoung, co-headlining a future NCT U concept that would travel globally. Another whispered idea was NCT SEA, an international unit based in Southeast Asia that would be spearheaded by Jungkook to dominate non-Korean markets using his global popularity. And the offers? Absurd. We're talking multi-million won contracts, exclusive housing, creative direction credits, even ownership stakes in merchandising deals. It was the kind of deal most idols could only dream of, and SM believed Jungkook could be their generational steal. They weren't just offering a spot, they were offering a legacy. But Jungkook, he didn't flinch. Because while the NCT system was futuristic and limitless on the surface, he saw something different. He saw fragmentation. He saw the risk of being trapped in a rotating door of projects, jumping from one concept to the next with no single core. And Jungkook had already spent years building something with blood and tears. BTS. A family, not a framework. He didn't want to be an interchangeable part in a system, even a brilliant one. He wanted rootedness. And then there was something more personal. Taeyoung. They respected each other deeply. But Jungkook knew that if he entered that world, it would change everything. It would set them up for constant comparison. It would fracture the unit's balance.
Taehyung was already the axis of NCT's early years. Adding Jungkook might have disrupted that, not strengthened it. He didn't want to walk in as a king. He wanted to walk forward with brothers. That's why he said no. Again. But SM didn't give up easily. They tried reaching out again during early Wave E planning. They hinted at secret collaboration units, crossovers, project subgroups. Jungkook kept declining. Respectfully. Quietly. And here's the twist. NCT went on to become one of the most fascinating, versatile, and genre-pushing boy groups of this generation. Taehyung, Mark, Jaehyun, Ten, Doyoung, Jano, Haechan, each one a star in their own right. Their performances? Legendary. Their concepts? Limitless. But fans still wonder, what would NCT have looked like with Jungkook in it? Could you imagine Jungkook in Kick It or Center in Make-A-Wish? But maybe that's the point. Maybe some stars aren't meant to orbit a galaxy. Maybe they're meant to burn on their own axis. Jungkook didn't want to be a unit. He wanted to be whole. And that's exactly what he became.
Number 2. 17 opened their arms, but Jungkook chose his own rhythm. Before 17 was the self-producing powerhouse we know today, before their choreographies went viral, before they became the pride of Pledis Entertainment and climbed their way to global stardom, there was a critical moment during their early pre-debut era when they reached out, quietly and seriously, to a young prodigy whose name was already buzzing through the industry like wildfire, Jungkook. He wasn't just another potential trainee, he was the golden boy, the industry's open secret, and 17 wanted him. The year was 2012. Pledis Entertainment was in the middle of shaping their most ambitious project yet, a massive boy group that wouldn't just perform, but create, write, choreograph, produce, direct, the full package. No more manufactured images. They wanted to build a group of artists. And they were holding secret auditions and invite-only scout sessions to find pieces for this new puzzle. In one of those sessions, Jungkook. At that point, Jungkook had already rejected offers from some of the biggest names in the business, SM, JYP, and he was still searching. Pledis saw an opening. 17 hadn't been named yet, but its skeleton was being built. S-Coups, Woozi, Hoshi, Wonru, Minggu, Jonghan, each had already started training, but the vocal line needed a centerpiece, someone who could not only sing, but feel, someone who would connect dots between performance and emotion, image and sincerity. They believed Jungkook could be that bridge. What they offered was unique. 17 wasn't going to be just a group, it was going to be a movement, a team of equals, no artificial hierarchies, no idol templates. They promised him something few companies dared to: control. If he wanted to choreograph, do it. If he wanted to compose, try it. If he wanted to take lead on vocal arrangement, no problem. They even promised to build subunits around his strengths, give him space to experiment with R&B, hip-hop, or even a cappella harmony. They told him, this group is for artists, not just idols. And Jungkook loved that idea. He reportedly trained for a short period with Pledis staff and some early 17 members. It wasn't long, but it was intense. He clicked with Hoshi during dance sessions. Woozi watched his vocal range with quiet awe. Jonghan said in passing that Jungkook had a presence that doesn't need to be taught. They all saw it. Even at 14, the way he internalized rhythm, the way he didn't just follow choreography, he understood it. But here's the part that hits. Pledis was still small, and while the artistic freedom they offered was intoxicating, the infrastructure was fragile. Their debut plans were shaky, their management was still recovering from past misfires, and Jungkook, wise beyond his years, saw that. He once said to a fellow trainee, "They believe in the art, but I'm not sure they can protect the artist." That one sentence speaks volumes. Because it wasn't just about debuting, it was about surviving after the debut. Pledis couldn't guarantee that yet. Big Hit, though equally small at the time, had something else. A vision that matched Jungkook's heart. A promise not of luxury, but of growth. He left quietly. No drama, no final handshake. just a boy who listened to his instincts. 17 eventually debuted in 2015. They were underestimated at first, just another big group, people said. But then came Adore You, Monse, Pretty You. The choreo, the vocals, the chemistry. They were different, real. Over time, 17 became the most respected self-producing group in K-pop, known for their brotherhood, their consistency, their integrity. But the question remains, what if Jungkook had stayed? Would he have been in the vocal unit with DK and Sungkwan? Would he have co-produced tracks with Woozi? Would he have stood beside S-Coups leading from within? Or would the entire shape of 17 have shifted around him? We'll never know, but maybe we don't need to. Because the truth is, Jungkook made his decision with love and clarity. He didn't reject 17's artistry, he respected it. He just chose to build his own. He didn't want to be a part of a masterpiece. He wanted to become one.
Number 1. BTS wasn't his only option, but Jungkook said no to Super Junior first. This might come as a complete shock, but long before Jungkook was the golden maknae of BTS, long before armies around the world screamed his name in sold-out stadiums, and long before Jungkook became a brand, a movement, a standard in K-pop, there was another path laid out for him. And it wasn't just another rookie offer. It was a golden ticket, a direct invitation into the Hall of Legends, a seat at the table of gods. The offer? Super Junior. Let's travel back to the late 2000s and early 2010s. Super Junior was it. Not just a boy group, a cultural force. From Sorry Sorry to Bonamana, they were dominating Asia. Japan, China, Thailand, the Philippines, everywhere they went, hysteria followed. They weren't just trendsetters, they were pioneers. And SM Entertainment wanted to secure the future of that legacy. They didn't just want the next Heechul or Donghae, they wanted someone who could take Super Junior's legacy further, even into a new generation. So what did they do? They scouted Jungkook. He was barely a teen, still shaping his voice, still learning what kind of artist he even wanted to be. But SM saw something that had nothing to do with age or polish. They saw power, a future main vocal, a stage killer, a heartthrob, someone who could reset the rhythm of the industry. And what did they do? They reached out directly. Rumors say Jungkook was brought into an elite scouting meeting. No big audition, no public fanfare, just a quiet, high-level conversation between him and SM's top training team. They were ready to put him in Super Junior M, SM's Mandarin language unit that dominated in China, or even groom him for a future subunit designed to cross over into global markets. They saw him as the bridge, the future. And the offer? Astronomical. For a boy his age, it was like offering a Lamborghini to a kid who just learned how to ride a bike. Trainee privileges, housing, VIP mentoring, even early modeling gigs. SM was offering to develop him under the shadow of legends. Training under Ye-sung and Raiwook's vocal instructors, performing in secret showcases with Donghae, being personally guided by Lee Tuk. They promised structure, success, and speed. But Jungkook, he turned it down. Because he didn't want to be the next Lee Tuk or the next Donghae. He wanted to be the first Jungkook. He wasn't after fame, he was after freedom. And the truth was, Super Junior was already a fully formed, hierarchical system. It worked, but it didn't leave much room for someone like Jungkook to grow, to stumble, to fail forward. He didn't want to be slotted into a machine, he wanted to become the engine of his own. Years later, when asked why he chose Big Hit, a company no one knew at the time, he simply said, "Because I saw a rap monster and I wanted to stand next to him." That one sentence is everything. He didn't chase the biggest label, he followed instinct, brotherhood, raw chemistry, and that's what changed everything. And what about Super Junior? They went on to continue their legendary career. They're still icons, still respected, still royalty in K-pop. But sometimes, just sometimes, when Lee Tuk or Eun Yuk are asked about the new generation of idols, they smile when Jungkook's name comes up. There's pride, and maybe even a quiet echo of what could have been. Because Jungkook didn't say no out of disrespect. He said no because he had something else to build, something messier, slower, but more real. He could have been a prince in an existing kingdom. Instead, he built his own. And the rest, well, the world knows how that story ends.